2 nuclear bombs, 1 ship, and it still didn't sink. This is the Prinz Eugen, a German heavy cruiser that survived World War II, then survived 2 atomic explosions. Here's the story nobody tells you. She was built in 1938 at the Germania Werft shipyard in Kiel, named after Prinz Eugen of Savoy, an Austrian military genius. From the moment she launched, she was designed to outgun anything fast enough to catch her. 212 meters long, nearly 19,000 tons of steel, a top speed of 32 knots, 8 8-inch guns capable of hitting targets 30 kilometers away. She was part of the most feared fleet in Nazi Germany, the Kriegsmarine. And in May 1941, she became infamous overnight. It was the Battle of the Denmark Strait. Prinz Eugen sailed alongside the legendary Bismarck. Together, they faced the pride of the British Royal Navy, HMS Hood, the largest warship in the world. Within 8 minutes, HMS Hood was gone. A single shell hit her magazine. She exploded and sank in under 3 minutes. 1,415 men went down with her. Only 3 survived. Prinz Eugen had fired the opening salvos of that battle and walked away untouched. For the next 4 years, Prinz Eugen fought across 2 oceans. She survived a British torpedo hit. She survived air raids. She bombarded Soviet positions from the Baltic Sea. In October 1944, she accidentally collided with another German cruiser, the Leipzig. The impact nearly cut the Leipzig in half, and still, Prinz Eugen kept going. By May 1945, Germany had collapsed. Prinz Eugen was one of the very few large German warships to survive the entire war completely intact. She was handed over to the British as a war prize. The British didn't know what to do with her, so they passed her to the Americans. And the Americans had a very specific plan. In 1946, the US military needed to answer one terrifying question. What does a nuclear bomb actually do to a naval fleet? They assembled 90 ships in the middle of the Pacific Ocean at Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands, and they planned to detonate atomic bombs directly on top of them. Prinz Eugen was placed right in the target fleet. The former enemy warship would now face the most destructive weapon humanity had ever built. July 1, 1946, Test Able. A B-29 bomber flew over the fleet and released a nuclear bomb named Able. It detonated in the air above the ships. 23 kilotons, nearly twice the size of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Prinz Eugen was moored just 1,100 meters from the epicenter. The shockwave hit her like a wall of solid air. Equipment flew across decks, the hull shook, and yet she floated. 3 weeks later came Test Baker. This time, the bomb was detonated underwater, directly beneath the fleet. The explosion drove a column of water half a kilometer into the sky. Ships were thrown through the air like paper models. The USS Arkansas, a 27,000-ton battleship, was lifted out of the water and flipped upside down. She sank in seconds. 9 ships sank that day. Dozens more were crippled beyond repair. The Baker test was later called the world's first nuclear disaster. And Prinz Eugen? She was still floating, still intact. A ship built in Nazi Germany had just absorbed 2 nuclear explosions and refused to die. The Americans were stunned. But there was something the bombs had left behind that no one could see. And this was the real killer: radiation. The Baker test had vaporized millions of tons of radioactive seawater and rained it back down onto the entire fleet. Within days, radiation levels on Prinz Eugen were so high that any sailor who stepped aboard would hit their entire daily exposure limit in minutes, not hours. Minutes. Sailors tried scrubbing the hull with soap and lye. They sprayed it with seawater for days. Nothing worked. The radioactivity was baked into the steel itself. The only real solution would have been to sandblast every centimeter of the ship down to bare metal. With 90 ships in the fleet, that was simply impossible. By August 1946, the Americans gave up on decontamination. Prinz Eugen was towed 350 kilometers away to Kwajalein Atoll. She was leaking, slowly, quietly. The blast damage deep inside her hull couldn't be repaired. No crew could stay on board long enough to fix it. She was dying from the inside. September, October, November. The reports kept coming in. She's still here, still floating. It was as if the ship simply refused to accept it was over. December 22, 1946. The leaking finally became uncontrollable. Prinz Eugen rolled slowly onto her side and capsized. She had survived the entire Second World War. She had survived 2 nuclear bombs, and in the end, a slow leak took her. Today, the wreck of Prinz Eugen still lies at Kwajalein Atoll. And here's the strange part. She capsized in shallow water. Parts of her are still above the waterline right now. Her propellers, parts of her hull, sticking out of the ocean for nearly 80 years. But she's still not done causing problems. In 2018, 72 years after she sank, she was still leaking fuel oil into the surrounding ocean. The U.S. Navy had to send a salvage ship, the USNS Salvor, to pump out thousands of liters of fuel still trapped inside her hull. A World War II warship, built in 1938, was still an active environmental threat in 2018. Think about that. One of her massive bronze propellers was eventually salvaged and shipped back to Germany, to the city of Kiel, where she was born. It stands at the Labo Naval Memorial today. People walk past it without knowing what it survived. 2 nuclear bombs, a world war, 80 years on the ocean floor. Prinz Eugen wasn't the most famous ship of the war, but she may have been the most impossible to kill. 2 nuclear bombs couldn't do it. Only time, and a slow leak, finally could. If you want more stories like this, forgotten ships, lost places, and history the world left behind, subscribe to Forgotten Depths. Every video goes deeper.